Hi Prachi, let's take a look at this task 2 you have sent us. The topic is international marketing, so let's see what you said about it, okay? World is promoted as a global village in the contemporary times. This development is considered by a segment of populace to be disruptive for a nation, whereas others believe it to be a prerequisite for bringing awareness about the country's lifestyle. The discourse will enunciate arguments based on these opposing views before reaching to an appropriate conclusion. Okay, so there are a couple of things happening here that create some problems. The first thing is that you've got a number of grammatical errors in this little paragraph. We're going to talk about those in a second. The other problem is this here. Before you're going to talk about arguments before you reach a conclusion. That's not what I want you to do. Essentially, they have asked you very clearly to discuss both sides and give your opinion. If you look at the band descriptors, you will see that they ask you to present a clear position throughout the response. And so what that means is that from the beginning of your essay, your position has to be clear. All right, and that's why you need to answer whatever question, whatever this command tells you to do, you need to do it in your introduction. All right, I hope that's clear. So that's the first thing. Now let's talk about the grammar. The world, and this is the wrong word, it's not promoted, okay? The world is described, perhaps, as a global village in contemporary times without the the. This development is considered by a segment of the populace, although I would have preferred the population, to be disruptive for a nation, whereas some others believe it to be prerequisite for bringing awareness about the country's lifestyle. Then the discourse, it's not discourse, it's an essay, okay? So just call it that. This essay will enunciate arguments. Now, you have to be careful with language like this, because if you're going to use things like will enunciate arguments, then the rest of your essay has to follow the same kind of course. Otherwise, it's going to sound like a really memorized piece of language, and that's not going to fare well. All right, so let's move on. There are individuals who deem on having boundaries for a region. One primary root is a fear that the population of the country will move away from their own cultural values. When people learn about ways of living from a diverse area, they adapt to those, being mesmerized by new things. For instance, many folks in India think low of their traditional attire and adorn Western clothes more often. Another concerning cause for them is introduction to foreign brands, which bring losses to the native companies. Local products, even after being of good quality, are valued down in comparison to items imported from abroad. Okay, so once again, we've got some grammatical mistakes, so let's start with those, okay? And not only grammatical, but I should also say lexical mistakes as well, so let's try that. There are individuals who support having boundaries for region. Now, that makes sense, although I don't know how relevant it really is to the topic, because we're talking about international marketing. No one is suggesting that countries have or do not have boundaries. So I still think that you probably need to change the sentence a little bit. You might want to say something like, there are individuals who support having trade boundaries for a region, or commercial boundaries for a region. All right, maybe you mean something like that instead. And this is strange about the one primary root. So it's just not a collocation that is typically used. So you might say something different, like one primary reason is a fear that the population of the country will move away from their own cultural values. Okay, remember that this is also supposed to be about invasion and intrusion, all right? So let's see how well you actually cover that. When people learn about ways of living from a diverse area, they adapt to those, being mesmerized by new things. This is awkward right here. And also, I really need some more specifics. So remember, we're talking about international marketing. So maybe you can tell me an example of how some type of marketing has managed to accomplish this thing that you're suggesting here. Okay? You said here that people, and also remember that the word folks is very informal, so avoid it. So, for instance, many people in India think lowly of their traditional attire and Where is a far more natural word. I understand that you're trying to show off your vocabulary, but I really think it would be better if you just said where. Western clothes more often. All right, this is a result of what, though? Because what you're describing to me is really globalization, and it's not international marketing. Okay? So if you want to connect it back to international marketing, then you need to do that. But so far, it doesn't sound like it has anything to do with marketing and just globalization instead. Okay, another concerning cause for them is introduction to foreign brands, which bring losses to the native companies. All right, I don't like this expression native company. I think you mean local companies. Again, you're not telling me how marketing accomplishes this. Okay, so this is your responsibility. Rather than telling me that local products are regarded more poorly, I understand that. What I need you to tell me, though, is why and how the international marketing is responsible for this, okay? I hope these issues are clear. Let's see. Not to the contrary, but on the contrary, okay? Many favor the idea of fading the differences in various continents. One of the most prominent reasons for their belief is that it brings unity among masses. There would be more tolerance in the communities if people would share the same ideologies. To exemplify, no government will think of going to war with others in such a case. Another upholding factor, that's the wrong word here, upholding, for their conviction is the escalation in rate of progress. To demonstrate, when all the brilliant minds of the world would come together, get rid of the wood, solutions to global issues can be easily found. That's lovely. Again, it's not a point for international marketing, though. It's a point for globalization, for breaking down borders and such, but it's not about international marketing. So it just feels like you're kind of touching on the topic, but really not really, okay? So, you didn't talk at all about this idea of an economical and necessary form of education. You talked a little bit about spreading ideas, but not really anything in terms of language and culture. So an examiner looking at this would probably say that this is an off-topic response, okay? Or it's just kind of referring to the topic, but not really. So to recapitulate, both the above highlighted points of view hold on to their relevance. That's awkward. We don't hold on to relevance. How about, to recapitulate, both views are valid. I nevertheless support the latter school of thought. The whole world standing together is a requirement for current times. Okay, that's fine. So there's some nice things happening. Your structure is fine, but a lot of the grammar is problematic. Some of the word choices also are problematic, but you've got the right bones to this. So the skeleton is fine. All right, so you just need to work on some other areas to make this really at the level that you would like it to be at. So I would like to see you signing onto the online course. I think that you would really get a lot of information on how to write more cohesively and more on topic, and I think that you would find it really very beneficial to you. So please, I hope it's something you will look into, see if maybe we can get you on the course and get you started on that so you can really do very well. All right, best of luck to you, and I look forward to seeing more of your work in the future.